Welcome, I am the Loud Little Ducky. Today we are doing an Am I the A-hole post from Reddit, and this is my mother ducking opinion. Let's jump in. Am I the a-hole for being a single mom in my 40s who doesn't want to date single dads in their 40s and 50s? When I was 22, I had 2 kids under the age of 2 with my ex-fiance. I came home from work one day after picking up the kids from daycare to find my ex had left. Took all his clothes, our emergency money, and every piece of electronics from our apartment and left. I called everyone we knew for months to try to find him. All I got from his parents was he was okay and he would contact me when he was ready. Uh, sir, you have 2 kids. Like, you need to be a dad? And it doesn't matter if you broke up or left your girlfriend, ex-fiance, whatever she is. You have 2 kids. They don't need to suffer because of the relationship suffering. Finally, after about 6 months, his sister admitted he had been cheating on me for years. His affair partner had graduated from college, got a job offer across the country, and he had moved with her. Oh, really? She must like deadbeat dads. I've never understood that. Dating a guy who has children and doesn't have anything to do with them. And then the woman that gets with them is like, yeah, he's a great guy. No, he's not. My oldest was a year and a half. My youngest was about 3 months old. I was a single mom by the ripe old age of 22. We haven't heard from him since. Interesting. And she's in her 40s now, so it's been over 20 years. And these kids have not seen their dad since then. Real piece of work. And I was about that age. I was 22 when I became single. Um, I was divorced basically at that point. So that's one reason I wanted to read this story is because this one kind of really resonates with me, and so I wanted to give my opinion on it. She continues on and says, honestly, the relationship was shit, and it wasn't a huge adjustment to being a single mom. I finally realized he was truly gone and tried to date again. I had strict rules on dating men. They wouldn't meet my kids until we had dated for at least 6 months and were seriously talking about a future. I would only go on dates after the babysitter and I had put the kids to bed at 7:30 and had to be home by 11 to relieve the sitter and to go to bed to be up in the morning with my kids. Which, good. Um, Great that she had somebody that could babysit and she had somebody that she could trust. Not everybody has that. Some of us will have parents that will help out, but some of us don't have that at all. Um, and I had my parents, but it wasn't their job to just watch my kids so that I could go out just because they were asleep or something like that. Not saying she did anything like that, but you get people who are like, "Oh, can I come over after the kids are asleep?" And these are on like dating apps. How about no? Like, no, you're not gonna be in my house when because my children would get up for some reason that night and be like, "Who is this man in our house?" So, no. Or can't your parents just watch them since they're asleep and they're going to be home anyways? No, because they're not their kids. Like, no. All right. So she said I had 100% custody 100% of the time. I had custody most of the time. My kids would very rarely go see their dad, or maybe just the son, but not the daughter, even though they had the same dad. I couldn't just leave to go do anything spontaneous, and I certainly wasn't going to spend the night anywhere. As you can imagine, this didn't go well. I usually got 3 responses to my dating rules. 1, I didn't put enough effort into the relationship. 2, the men weren't ready to be dads in their early to mid-20s. And 3, they didn't want to parent another man's kids, which even then I thought was fair enough. Rarely did I go on a date with a man more than a couple of times. And I can get that because I thought I would go on the dating apps myself. This is me being naive, and when things are fairly new, and I thought people were going on these things to actually find love, not shaboing boing. And I thought, okay, this might be great because I can get to know them over the phone. And by the time I am free to go on a date when I don't have my kids or something, then I can meet them. And we've already gotten to know each other really well. Except for people are like, hey, oh yeah, you want to go out tonight? And I'm like, that's moving really fast. So she says, at 25, I came to the realization a relationship just wasn't in the cards for me. I quit dating completely, went into therapy, and started taking night classes at a community college instead of spending money on sitters to go on dates. I pretty much focused on giving my kids everything they needed and most of what they wanted. Those years were crazy, and I scratched my way up the corporate ladder. I got a higher education, and when I wasn't at work or school, I was with my kids. So that's great. She worked on herself, which is good. You do everything you can to provide for these kids. Nowadays, single moms, whether you have a car or you don't, they've got online classes. Um, they've got grants if you don't make that much money. Um, there's a lot of resources out there now for women to better themselves, even if they're stuck without a car or they're a single mom. You don't have to worry about going to campus for a class, and stuff like that. My kids and I did everything together. If I wanted to go to the movies, we went to the movies. Age appropriate, of course. If I wanted to get my hair done, we went and got our haircut done. When I went to therapy, we went to therapy. I took the fact that I had to be both mom and dad very seriously. My social life was basically zero. If I couldn't take my kids to an event, we didn't go. We called ourselves the Three Musketeers. That is really cute. And she sounds like a really good mom. And I understand that. Like, no, you can't go see a movie that you want to see. Thank God for streaming now, but yeah, you just take them everywhere that you go when they're little. And then eventually they get to the age where they can stay home by themselves for a little bit. And you start to get a little bit more freedom when they get older. Um, that's why I was like, countdown to 40, because both of my kids will have been 18 and graduated, and my life starts over. Well, now I have a grandson, and I turn 40 next year. So, not exactly, but grandson's still not my kid. And I might still have a life of my own. But, and maybe I'll date then. I don't really date a whole lot now because I don't have time. I just don't have the time. And I had dated a little bit, and then about 2017, 2018, I was like, you know what? I only have like 5, 6 more years really until my kids are fully grown. I don't really need the kids to have a stepdad, and they're in that preteen teenage phase. People got opinions about things your kids do at that age and don't do and all that. And it was chaos and sometimes embarrassing because your kids don't always act the way you want them to. They're not perfect little beings, and I just didn't want to hear anybody's opinions on it. Because I was doing the best I could. I was working as much as I could with my medical problems. Um, it's just really hard. And then I had been with a guy that had some kids, and then the kids ended up not getting along, even though they were friends in the beginning, and they're friends now after the relationship is over. But I didn't like being a stepmom, um, because the kids didn't like that I had rules. And while the guy I was with agreed on the rules with me, the kids, being girls and preteens and teenagers, they they were very defiant and it caused a lot of problems. And so I was like, you know what? I don't think I want to date anybody with kids, not little kids. Or you know, I would be okay with dating somebody that had kids who were like grown. Um, but yeah, I just didn't want to really be a stepmom because I'm not trying to be anybody's mom, but I also don't want to deal with the mind games and everything like that. And you know, once my kids are raised, I raised my kids. And so I don't really want to raise anymore. So I can kind of get some of the things that she's going through. Back to the story. Sorry, we went off a little bit. I also became what my therapist called hyper independent. I cleaned my house, mowed my lawn, did all the repairs, took out my own trash, etc. on my own. If I didn't know how to do it, I learned. I put a lot of pressure on myself to not need anyone or anything. My kids and I were on our own island. Very rarely did I ask for help with anything. And you do. You just do what you got to do. Um, I'd get out of the hospital and the same day I would go to work if I was able to, when I should have gone home and rested. But I need that money. So you do what you got to do. And I get it. Like, I would tell my daughter, because usually it was just me and her, it's me and you against the world. It's always been us two. My son got both of his parents and even lived with his dad for a little bit. My daughter never did. She never was allowed to. But yeah, you figure out how to do it. You fake it till you make it. And I really instilled in my daughter that if you want something, you go get it. Like, you don't need a man for it. You want your nails did, your hair did, you want those shoes, your purse. You bust your ass and get it. You don't need a boyfriend for that. You get one of those to add benefit to your life. And while it's nice and if he buys you gifts, great. But if you wanted to buy something for yourself, then you could do that too. Um, all of it hasn't fully sunk in with baby daddy, but for the most part, she's super independent. She's a hustler and she'll figure it out. My kids grew into wonderful people. They're adults now and have adult jobs. They're both in long-term relationships, 4 years and 2 years. They are smart, responsible, and the two most amazing people I have the honor of knowing. But like most adults in long-term relationships and good-paying jobs, they moved out. We still talk every day to 2 days. We still hang out once a week or so, but I'm very cognizant of the fact that they need to live their own lives. I'm not their everything anymore. They went and grew up on me. You are still their everything. Yeah, they've got their partners and the people they're in a relationship with, but they love and appreciate you. And if you need anything, those kids are going to be right by your side. They understand the sacrifices that you made to be there for them. Even while they're growing up and they seem ungrateful, they know and they appreciate it. They really do. She says, about 6 months ago, my kids had a come to Jesus talk with me. They were worried I spent too much time alone and wanted me to start dating again. I agreed that it might be nice to dip my toes back into the dating pool. The issue I'm having is I state pretty clearly on dating sites my children are adults and I'm not looking for more kids. For some reason, many men take that as I'm not looking to give birth to more children. But no, I'm not looking for any children at all. But for some reason, this is getting lost in translation, and I predominantly match with men with younger kids. So that's interesting. Is she willing to date somebody that has kids that are adults? They're just not minors. Or does she not want men with adult kids or young kids either? It's just, if you have a child, you're a no-go. Because that's interesting. And I know that some people have adult children that meddle into relationships just as badly as young kids, but you can fix that deal yourself. Like, you can exit the situation, and choose to put up with that or not put up with that. But I get the come to Jesus talk. My kids are like, Mom, like, you need somebody. Like, we're not going to be here forever. And like, we don't want you to be alone. And I'm like, I'm okay being alone. Like, sometimes would it be nice to have one sometimes? Yeah, of course. But like, I'm going to be fine with whether I have somebody or I don't have somebody. But they worry about you. They don't want you to be lonely. They want you to have friends or a partner, somebody to do something with. But she says the men who have contacted me have children anywhere in the ages of 4 to 14. I explain that I'm not interested in dating someone with minor children. Read on, Ducky, read on. You would have seen that. They get angry at me since I'm a single mom and I should know how hard it is. And they're right. I'm a single mom. I know how hard it is. And I'll be damned if I do it again. Yeah, some people are just done. They raise their kids. They don't want to raise anymore. I don't want to teach anybody to read. I don't want to potty train. I don't want to teach somebody how to tie their shoe. I won't do none of that no more. Especially the teaching to read. Like, I understand why nobody wants to learn English, because English is hard. They get mad when I state basically the same things I heard as a single mom in my 20s. They wouldn't have time for a relationship. I don't want to go back to parental relationships. And I don't want to parent another woman's children. Yeah. People don't want to deal with baby mama drama either. Because no matter what you do, you still have two people that you have to answer to. And you don't want to answer to them. You just want to be you. That's it. And you can't necessarily do that when you have two people that are already against you, and then possibly a child. I get the pushback. The kids are with their mom half the time. That means half the time they're with their dad. And I don't want a man ditching his kids to go on a date to hang out with me. No, no. Even if you did date somebody with a kid, that should not be happening. Like, spend time with the kids when you got them, especially if you have them like every other weekend type thing. Like, you can go on a date when it's not your weekend. One dad was like, but I only have them every other weekend. Like, dude, do you think only seeing your kids 4 times a month is a turn on? Especially to a single mom? Okay, well, I'm going to disagree right here because while it's not necessarily a turn on, there are people out there who they only get the every other weekend, and they would have them every weekend if the other one allowed. But because they like to play games, they're like, it's not your weekend. No, you can't have them. Like, don't be like that. If the dad wants to be involved in the kid's life, let them. Like any day that the kid's dad wanted to come pick up my kids, which he didn't have them every other weekend most of the time, but even if he did, if he was like he's like, hey, can I have them for a whole week? Or can we have them every other week? Even though our thing says weekends, yeah, yes, please. My sanity. My sanity. Yes, come get your kids. I've never understood these moms who were like, no, it's not your weekend. Like, let them be involved in their kid's life. You get a chance to do stuff that you weren't going to get to do, have some free time. Let the dads in. If they're good dads and, they're not a danger to your kids. He says, or they're like, you won't even meet them for the first year. So that means at a minimum, if it goes anywhere, I'll have to deal with a teenager for a couple of years. They can't seem to understand that I'm done. Like done raising kids, even on the perimeter. I did my time. I'm on parole. I have reached the promised land. Yes. And I see kids. I saw it during COVID, especially where their youngest kid was a senior or they were in high school and it's like, you have 3 or 4 more years. And then they had a baby. And I'm like, why would you add 18 more years to your sentence? You are almost done. You're free almost. But that's my opinion. I don't want to have to cancel dates because a kid got sick. Okay, well, kids get sick. People get sick. I mean, what if he got sick? Like, I don't want to go to recitals and concerts of kids who aren't mine. What about grandbabies? Step grandbabies. Bet your butt I'm going to those recitals. I don't want to sit through sports stuff, wash uniforms, or figure out what healthy stuff to make for dinner, even though I am a baby mama. I don't want to deal with one, even if they're a lovely woman. I don't want to figure out schedules or plan kid-friendly stuff on vacations and such, because even if a guy says I wouldn't have to do any of that, I don't know how a man would simply split his life totally in half and still be a responsible parent. In my eyes, if you're a parent Wednesday through Saturday, you're also a parent on Sunday through Tuesday, even if your kids aren't with you. Well, yeah, but if you don't have the kids, you don't have the kids. But, she doesn't want to do this, and that's her right. If she doesn't want to date anybody with kids, she doesn't have to. It might be harder to find somebody. I deal with that because most people my age still have young kids. But, you know, you want what you want. And that's the joy of getting older is you know what you want. And so you don't have to waste your time dealing with things to figure out what you want anymore because you're like, I've been through this. These are the things I want. These are the things that I don't want, and if I'm not going to go on a date where in the end we're just not in the same place in life. So why bother? Just to get a free meal? No. I date to marry. I date for forever. Like, I want a forever person. I don't want to date somebody just to have a good time for a little bit or just to have somebody. I just don't do that. And she doesn't need to either. And if people think she's a winch for doing that, then, that's their opinion. One man got really mad at me and said I must hate dad since my kid's dad left me. I asked him if when he was in his early 20s, would he date a single mom? He said no, but this is different. I said, just because you were 24 and I'm now 44, nothing is different. The same reasons why you wouldn't have dated me, I don't want to date you. He called me a hypocritical bitch. I blocked him, but it bothered me enough. I'm awake late on Saturday night thinking maybe I'm asking for too much. Maybe I'm not giving them enough of a shot. Or maybe I should get a dog and wait another 10 years and try when most men's children are adults too. So that's that, Reddit. Am I an asshole for not wanting to date single dads even though I am a single mom? I don't think but am now second guessing myself. So I want to know what y'all think. Do you think she is the a-hole for not wanting to date somebody with minor kids? She's okay with dating somebody that has adult kids. I don't think so because I'm kind of in the same boat. I don't want minor kids. If you have adult kids, fine. And if that means that I have to date somebody that is older than me, which I've always preferred older guys, then so be it. Uh, we don't want to go through certain things. And yeah, it could be because of the past, and her having to do it all on her own. And sometimes guys use you as a glorified babysitter. And so you just are stuck in a position where you're kind of raising the kids that you didn't want to raise and they're not yours. But they have to go to work on one of their weekends or days that they have the kids. And so guess who's stuck watching them? You. And guess who has to try to discipline them and keep them in line? You. And they're going to be like, you're not my mama. So I get it. Although I can see, it's great to step up, especially if somebody else didn't step up and love these kids as your own. And you can try to do that. But sometimes it bites you in the butt and it just sticks with you. Because you can treat the kids as your own and it still doesn't matter. And you can want to work at it yourself and they don't want to work at it. Because blending families is hard. Especially that first year of like living together and being a family. Because everybody's getting used to each other. But it would take two people to make it work. These women are not your glorified babysitters, and neither are these guys. So I don't think she's the a-hole for not wanting to date somebody with little children or teenagers. I think you do you, and eventually you'll find somebody. Or maybe you don't, but you're okay with being alone. I always joke that I just need a, a gay guy bestie who will go shopping with me, cuddle on the couch, and, watch a movie and all that. We go to dinner. And then when he wants to get his, he goes elsewhere. I get my bed to myself. I don't have to deal with snoring. It's a win-win in my book. Um, but what do you guys think? Do you think she's an a-hole? Like this video, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe if you want to see more of these Reddit posts and my opinion on them. Bye.